I'm Bad Brad Berkwitt from America,
I'm Gord Deppe from Canada.
and we welcome you to our show, Last Stop, the Twilight Zone show. Folks, is that not the coolest guitar riff ever?
One of the best TV show themes ever, too, I think.
All right, so we're here to do another one of our shows. But before we do, let's do a little catching up. What's going on with you?
I discovered this really cool show called The Twilight Zone. I'm just really getting into here. Oh, man. Just got a lot of great feedback from people, which is nice. Because we're living in the Twilight Zone right now. So, this is the lost episode we are living day to day. So
Exactly.
This is kind of yeah.
I think Gord is trying to, even though I was in the Navy, but he's wearing Army green. I'm wearing green. We didn't notice.
Look at that.
We didn't coordinate before. But on his epaulets, that's what you call them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna promote him to straight up to a staff sergeant.
That's not for a guitar strap. That was for, what was it, for your hat or something? I don't know what was on there.
Well, yeah, the bigger ones are. Yeah, we used to slide our caps in there. So I got a couple cool things that Gord knows about, but I'm going to rub it in because he's going to be a little jealous. But this is for the viewers. So since our last episode last week, I've received some really, really cool things in the mail that are related to the Twilight Zone. So first of all, I want to share this. Let me get a shot here so they can see it. The Twilight Zone. This book was written by Rod Serling back in, let's see, copyright 1960, 61, 62 by Rod Serling. But his daughter, who I had on the show recently, Anne, sent me this as a gift. And Gord asked me, did she sign it? And I was like, I don't think so. And then I realized, let me get this out of that she actually did sign it. So that's really, really cool. Thank you, Anne Serling. I'll be reading this because it actually talks about some of my favorite episodes. But as well, in the mail yesterday or the day before yesterday, I lose track of days, I got this from my best friend Rodney from Maryland, who sent me this binder, the Twilight Zone Archives Trading Cards 2020 edition. But what's cool is, let me see if I can get a good shot of these.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so they're like vintage style cards. It's really cool. Like that's the Living Doll, Talking Tina. That Deb likes, Steel, which was a boxing one, which was really cool. So I got those in the mail. So I appreciate that, Rodney and Ann.
I got nothing.
I know.
How do I get something up here in Canada?
I know.
You know what would be really cool to get? I always like, I've got a favorite bunch of shows, Prisoner from England, and I've been tracking down, but this is another series I would love to have, you too probably, a piece of, like a prop piece from one of the episodes. And it could be as simple as a paperweight or a book that was on the shelf in an episode. Like, they got to be kicking around. So anybody out there who's got a piece of film history at home they want to give to us or sell, let us know.
There you go. Let us know. Let us know. Leave a comment below the video. All right, folks, let's get into it. The name of our show, if you didn't know, is The Last Stop, the Twilight Zone show. And today, we're going to be reviewing episode 4, the 16mm Shrine. It aired on October 23rd, 1959, the year that Gord was born. How old were you in October? You were about 5 months old?
I was born in March. So
March, okay. So you were about eight months.
I was a fully grown baby by then.
Which I've seen a cute picture of you on your Facebook page. Someone showed me. Okay, so it starred Ida Lupino, and Martin Balsam. It was written by Rod Serling, and it was directed by Mitchell Leeson, I think is how you say it. So with that said, we're going to turn it over to Gord to do a synopsis, likes, dislikes, and all that good stuff.
The synopsis, first of all, I forgot how much I like this one because I've got a real soft spot for anything about old Hollywood. And obviously this is like the movie Sunset Boulevard. And I had to do a double check. This came out after the Sunset Boulevard came in 1950. I wasn't quite sure. So Rod, I guess, took that basic idea and then took it into the Twilight Zone because it gets a little weirder at the end, right? But the story is about an aging Hollywood star from the the early years, 20s, 30s, who's sort of clinging on to her past, won't let go of her past, and she's constantly watching her own movies in a screening room, just like in Sunset Boulevard. And she's literally lost in her movie. She secludes herself in her room all day long, and her maid brings her tea and locks the door or whatever. And she has no interest in the outside world. I mean, she's pretty well just in denial, trapped in the past. She won't accept aging either. They still think she's that young starlet on the screen. And she's constantly watching these movies with this old love interest, I guess, in the movie. So, and there's a part, Martin Balsam, I love this guy. He's actually, well, we'll get to that later. I don't want to give away the trivia. Yeah, he's her agent, and he loves her. He obviously lifelong friends, and he sees that she's delusional, right? And he happens to get her an audition, which could be a good thing, but she turns into a bad thing because of her ego. It gets in the way, right? She still thinks she's a star. She's got to do things on her terms. She goes to see the guy from the movie studio, and he offers a role. Of course, it's a role that is not up to her standard, right? She plays a mom or something. She refuses it. She storms out and gets really angry because she's still thinking she's a young movie star. Mm-hmm. So she retreats back to her Beverly Hills mansion, her screening room. She decides to lock herself into the 20s and 30s. That's it. Now she's done with it. And when you think it's all over, she says, why don't we get a little party together of all my old movie co-stars and relive the past. Well, her manager doesn't have the heart to tell her that most of them are dead by now. Mm-hmm. But he does arrange for her main co-star, I forget his name, her love interest in all these movies that she's watching. They're always in love scenes, to come over to the mansion and hopefully, be a wake-up call. But it works the other way. It really backfires. And what happens is he comes by. Obviously, time hasn't stood still for him like it has for her. He's moved on. He owns like a chain of grocery stores now, mm-hmm. But she doesn't even recognize him. He's an old man, right? Right. And she doesn't want to accept that he's not trapped in the past like she is. She kind of almost throws him out and said, that's it. And that's the final straw. She locks herself into her screening room, and she pretty well takes her delusion and her ego and stuff to the limit and wishes herself into one of her old movies. And this is where it departs from Sunset Boulevard, where it goes into a bit of fantasy here. And she wishes so hard that she does it. So there's a scene at the end where her maid walks in with the tea and looks at the screen, screams and drops it because there she is on screen in her present self, a little older, with all her old movie stars, mm-hmm. but totally happy in her realm. And I love this scene, again, Rod being very, tugging at the heartstrings and wrapping up with a nice ending where her manager sees her on the screen, hardly believing what he's seeing, but he calls out to her like, Barbie, Barbie. Her name is Barbie, Barbie. Mm-hmm. And somehow in this Twilight Zone world, she hears him or senses him and kind of turns around on the screen and looks at him and sort of just blows a kiss, and throws her sash, and then takes the arm of her co-star, and all her friends from the old movie surround her and go up the stairwell. And he kind of, he still can't believe it, but he walks out into the hallway to leave her mansion, and there's that sash on the floor that she threw at him off the screen pretty well. And he picks it up and still smells like her perfume. Mm-hmm. And a wonderful ending, one of my favorite endings of any of the Twilight Zone episodes is he kind of looks and says like, he smiles and sort of a happy smile for his dear old friend who got her wish. I think the final was two wishes, Barbie, to the ones that come true. This one really does come true. And she gets back the world that she never wanted to let go. Okay. I love this episode. Nothing, a couple of funny, the maid screaming is a little overacting and stuff, but just the whole premise. I love anything old Hollywood. I love the characters. Both the actors have great history in cinema and in Hollywood at the time. Yeah, one of those
you probably like that house too, right? Because you probably like that style house. Because isn't that kind of like what you put in the first and last time? That type of house, that old nostalgic type of house.
Yeah, it's got a lot of history and a lot of ghosts in it. There's a lot of every inch of it is locked in some period. Yeah, so I love this. It's one of those episodes I had no idea how much I liked. I saw it again. So wait a second, this is one of my favorites, which I'm sure it's going to happen along the way. This should have been on my list of favorites, but I forgot about it.
Okay.
So over to you. Do you have any cool trivia about this one?
I do. I have some good facts and some trivia. Well, first of all, as I mentioned, Ida Lupino was the star. As you said, Barbara Jean, Barbie is what he called her in the thing. She was an interesting person because she was a big star at one time, and she was one of the first, if not the first, female directors in the 1950s when it was kind of like, women can't direct. And she had a lot of success and was a big proponent pushing women forward to direct in the 1950s. Now, here's a good trivia fact with her in a Twilight Zone. She is the only person to appear in the Twilight Zone and the only woman to ever direct a Twilight Zone. And it happens to be one of Debbie's favorite episodes, which was in season 4, which was 1964. That was the last season, called The Mask. And Debbie loves that one. When they put on The Mask, Ida Lupino directed that episode. Now, another little tie-in. Jerry, the guy you're talking about that was the old man that owned the grocery stores, his character name was Jerry Herndon in the episode. Well, there's a tie-in between him and Ida Lupino. In 1941, one of my favorite Humphrey Bogart movies starred, obviously, Bogey, and Ida Lupino was his co-star, called High Sierra.
High Sierra, yeah.
High Sierra. Well, the actor that played Jerry Herndon, his name is Jerome Cowan. He was also a bit player in the 1941 movie High Sierra with Ida Lupino. Cool. So they had worked before, 18 years before they made this Twilight Zone. Now, as well, Martin Balsam was in another Twilight Zone episode. Do you know which one?
I was trying to remember. It's the one where he takes care of the wax museum.
Yes, the wax.
I don't know the name of it. But
it's called. That was also in 1964. The last season of the Twilight Zone. It was called The New Exhibit, and he was the curator of the wax museum with all of the bad guys, Jack the Ripper.
I love that one.
All of those guys, which is a really good one. So Martin Balsam was in 2 Twilight Zones. Now he's also, I got to give him a plug for a movie that he was in, which is one of my favorite 1970s movies. Did you ever see Martin Balsam when he was a train robber in the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3?
I know that movie. I forgot he was in it.
He was one of the bad guys.
Obviously, not the Travolta one, the original one.
Yeah. No.
I loved him and everything. He was one of those really likable guys, no matter what he played. Really,
very good actor. Yes, very, very. But he was in the original one that starred Walter Matthau, Robert Shaw, Martin Balsam, and I think Hector Elizondo were the bad guys that robbed it, and they got on the train. So, again, a plug to Ida Lupino because I love hearing about women that are groundbreakers, and she was doing it in the 1950s. So props to her there. As you said, Martin Balsam was a great actor. And I agree with all of your likes. I like the nostalgia in it. I like the twist where she winds up. It wasn't as predictable as the last one was, but I liked how she wound up on the screen. And I love how, she got her wish. It's what she wanted. She wanted to go there. And honestly, who did she hurt by going back there, Oh, and one other thing I will say, the maid, and I looked it up and other people thought this, because as soon as, I don't know if you know what Google, if you type in a question to Google, and a gazillion
it'll tell you anything. Yeah.
Right. No, it'll tell you anything. But if a lot of people thought it, you'll start to type it in and it'll give you what it is. Like you won't even finish. So the maid, I thought, but her voice was different. I thought she was the same actress that played in Queen of the Nile. Do you remember that episode?
Not really.
She was like a black widow. We're going to get to that one further down. But she was one that she was hundreds of years old, and she would take people's, the youth, the age of people. And her mother in it, well, she's supposed to be her mother. I won't give it away until we talk about it. But I thought it was the same actress, and a lot of people did. But her voice was different. I was like, well, maybe she just did an accent, but it wasn't the same actress. There was actually the actress name that played the maid was a character's name in It's a Good Life, which is the one we'll get to further down the road with Billy Mummy, where he wishes people into the cornfield. So that was other stuff there.
Well, you wonder back then if a lot of these people hung out and, went for drinks after, and, the circle of people that, that's why they just end up working together. I'm sure he admired people that he wanted on his show, but there's got to be a like-minded bunch of people who had Rod's, lust for this kind of, expression stuff that wanted to hang out with him and, put me in the show or that understood what his message was.
Well, along that, and I agree. When I read a little bit of the book that Ann sent me, and Cayuga, I think that's how you say it, Productions, which was Rod, he owned it all. Supposedly, and I believe it, he had total approval of actors, control of everything, which I believe because of the messages that he was putting out, he had to have control. Because as I told you in the last episode, what a person couldn't say about racism, an alien could. So he got away with it using his brilliant mind. But the actors that he picked for a lot of these series were just, and they went on to be big stars, a lot of them, but they were just, the acting in so many of these episodes is fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this week I will go first with my rating for this episode.
Well, I have to give you my trivia.
Oh, my bad. See, I got ahead of myself.
I don't have much.
There you go.
I do have a couple.
Go ahead.
Not much. Not very much.
Yes, he does. Go ahead.
First of all, once again, we have a new intro. Did you notice? And this one they kept for a while. The one with the cave. And I like this one better. The one they used last episode was kind of an experiment or something. I think they kind of went back and forth for later on, but I like this new one with the cave and the stars. You know, it's the one star that has the eye in it almost. Or
yes.
It's a little silly thing. Okay, I did a Lupino thing. I was going to mention all those things you did about her being prominent as a woman in Hollywood at the time, working with Hitchcock. She worked with Hitchcock as well, co-directing and that kind of thing. Here's something you may not know. You know the big movie intros, like the line for MGM that roars?
Yes.
Do you remember the one where there's a woman standing holding a torch? I don't know if it's Screen Gems or, the big one?
Yeah.
That's Ida Lupino.
Oh, that I didn't know. Good one.
Check those out. I've heard this years ago, and look at her face. It's her. It's sort of, she represented, I guess, the change in Hollywood at the time. But I think it's her almost like standing there like the Statue of Liberty with the sky behind her and the clouds. You know that one? Now, maybe we can find out, or someone can tell us what film studio that was. I could be Screen Gems, something like that.
Okay.
So she was something, she was a prominent figure in Hollywood at a mainly male-run world, I guess, which is so very, very cool. Martin Balsam, he was also in Psycho.
Yes.
Always the Alfred Hitchcock connection, and so many great TV shows. So I do like him, and I'm glad to see he was back in another one. I think Rod had favorites. There's a couple like him and Burgess Meredith. There's a couple of people he would bring back, which is unusual. But I think who else? William Shatner did a couple repeats. So anyway, that's the extent of my trivia. But the one about her, check her out on the
I'm
beginning.
Gonna check that out. Yeah, with holding up the torch.
You'll know her face right away. Yeah.
And I think researching, I think she was English and American or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was, how old she was in this episode? I looked it up too because I was curious how old. Because I was like, well, are they trying to make it? How does she look as far as holding up? Because I know they did her hair a little gray. I believe, if I remember, if I remember correctly, I think she was 41 in this episode.
Which is not over the hill, which is maybe, especially these days, but that's pretty sad that they consider her over the hill for Hollywood. I think even in the scene where you say you're going to play a mother, she's, what do you mean a mother? How old a mother? Says, in your 40s, and she's appalled by 40s is great.
I know. I'll take the 40s back. Shit. But you know what? Also, you remember she had the veil, and he said, "Lift up your veil," because he wanted to see, because she was trying to cover up any lines and stuff.
Yeah.
So he was like, and he was a good actor too. His name, I think, was Ted DeCorva, which I have to look and see if he wasn't related to Johnny Carson. I think his producer was Fred DeCorva. Really? I want to see if there was a relation there.
I think they were just trying to hit home how unforgiving Hollywood was, especially in those days. The studio system, they controlled everything about you, right down to your wrinkles.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Glad you told me. I'm glad I got your stuff out there. See, I get ahead of them sometimes. It's in New York.
So you're gonna do the rating.
I'm gonna go first. Let's see where we are in the number.
One day we're gonna line up, right? Yeah, we're always off by one or two, but
right. All right. So for this episode, which I did enjoy, I gave it a 7.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the dog saying? What did the dog give it?
The dog gave it 8 barks.
There you go.
8 barks from the dog. Yeah, this is one of those ones I forgot how good it was, and my highest so far has been a 7. But this one was better than I remember. That it really, the whole world of old Hollywood, the the extravagance of her home, you know, film. I love old movie, black and white films. The idea of a happy ending like that, I think we would all wish for that happy ending, right? Imagine we could all be trapped in that one, well, not trapped, but forever preserved in the best time of our life. I mean, that's the perfect ending, right?
I agree. I agree. All right, a couple of reminders I want to put out. One, make sure you hit the button and you subscribe, whatever corner it's in. Leave your comments below. We've been getting some comments on the videos, which I love. We always respond. If you have a question for Gord and I, or for both of us that you want answered, send them into ringsidereport2014@gmail.com. Again, that's ringsidereport2014@gmail.com. Now, just a little programming note. On the next couple episodes, Gord and I are going to reverse roles, and I'll be doing synopsis, likes and dislikes. He's going to be hitting me with trivia and facts, and that's how we're going to do it. As well, remember, we're going to start having guests on, which will be interesting because I've only done interviews with one person, so we're going to bring a third person to talk about. And I've got some pretty famous people that want to come on already. They're like, hey, when are you going to have me on? Let's get a few more episodes under our belt, and we're going to start having guests on. And we're going to start going in different directions too, not just episodes, but talking about memorabilia and life experiences that we thought, like, wow, we walked into the Twilight Zone on this, and so on. But other than that, you've been getting great comments. I've been getting great comments about it. I'm very touched that people are saying they're revisiting the show because that's what Gord and I wanted. You know, this is obviously a passion of ours. We love the show and we adore Rod Serling. And other thing too, I want to remind people is we're also at some point going to talk about some of Rod Serling's other work because he also did some movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He did some TV in the 50s that we could talk about as well. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to spin off.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing this for a while, especially with COVID. So other than that, you got anything else you want to put out?
Oh, it just got me thinking of all this other work I forgot about. The Night Gallery. Oh my God, there's a whole bunch of other. No, I don't think anything will ever beat the Twilight Zone, but it won't. There were some really great moments on that show. His work obviously with the Planet of the Apes movies. Oh my, yeah.
Well, you know, me being a boxing guy, he wrote Requiem for a Heavyweight. That's his.
Now I was thinking when that episode comes, that'll just be you talking the whole half hour.
Well,
right?
no, that's not an
like
episode.
Your world.
Yeah, but that's not an episode. That was a TV movie.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about what's the episode of Twilight Zone about the Steel?
Oh, well, there was actually two off the top of my head. Steel was with your man that you mentioned, Lee Marvin, who I always loved, and also a wish for, I don't know if it's called A Wish for Bowley, but it's a black guy and a little boy that wishes, and Bowley's a boxer, played by Ivan Dixon. If anybody remembers Hogan's Heroes, Ivan Dixon was on Hogan's Heroes. That's another boxing one. So Rod had two boxing episodes. So
I'll take those days off. I just sit here and listen to you talk the whole time. That's your world. Yeah. There weren't any Twilight Zone episodes about, well, there were some about musicians, which, maybe I'll do those. The trumpet player, more jazz than rock.
Well, the trumpet player, but also you had the one with Bing Crosby's son, where he was like a Dixie Billy or I think it's music, and he was a singer, and I think his name was it might have been Gary Crosby, but he's Bing Crosby's son. That's for sure. That's another episode coming up as well. All right, folks. As we always do when we close out, I'm going to say goodbye from America.
Goodbye from Canada.
All right. Until next time.